with Rachel V. Hill, taking a daily look at the biggest stories in Denver sports and interacting live with you, the Coffee Break fam. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of joe, and enjoy your coffee break. Here's your host, Rachel V. Hill.
It's Wednesday, so you know what that means. We're going over my 10 observations from the game last week. This time, Broncos taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Of course, ends in a loss, 13-6, an ugly, boring game. And we'll get into all of my 10 observations. So please hang out with us. Join me in the comments. Just a solo session to me or with me hanging out. I might share the In the Sports Office vlog that I did for this game too at some point. We'll see how we're feeling and let me know if you guys would like to see it. But essentially, I kind of just wanted to dive in. I already see some of the comments coming in, so thank you guys so much. I appreciate the love. But let's just dive right in because I feel like there was a ton to get into. So last week when I did this 10 observations, I couldn't watch the All 22. It wasn't available for me on my NFL account. This week it was. The All 22, if you are able to watch it, it is so fascinating to see how everything transpires. And it's totally different than any normal broadcast. And it's so much fun to watch at the exact same time. Usually coaches and players and management obviously get access to it, but sometimes with your NFL account, you can also see it. So I did a lot of watching of the All 22 this week to kind of dive into different things that I had just noticed. Overlooking this entire Broncos team. Also, there's some in the Steelers here too, because if you're paying attention to the NFL in general, there was one thing in particular that I was like, this is really interesting. And we'll get down to it at the end. My last observation, probably my favorite one from this week, comes at number 10. So definitely stay tuned for that one. And let me know how you guys are feeling about the Broncos in the comments. I'm very, very curious to see where Broncos country is at right now. Are we on board with Bo Nix? Are we saying it's just going to take some time? It's just going to take some time. Or are we already on the, what are we doing? Let's go back to Jarrett Stidham. Let's go find another veteran in QB. I'm curious. So good morning or afternoon, I guess now, to everybody in the comments. So let's get into it. Okay. My number one observation is they are one move away. I actually talked about this a little bit with James Palmer yesterday on Coffee Break. And I don't know if he 100% would agree with me, but I felt like he definitely saw the vision and where I was coming from. It feels like this Broncos defense entirely is one move away from just being so solid. And I think already they're doing a great job and they're clearly the strength of this team. Them and special teams, let's be real. They're the strength of this team. But there was a huge run that Pittsburgh was able to get. And it was because DJ Jones unfortunately fell down. Otherwise, it would have never happened. Like, it's those little things where it was literally like half a second or somebody hadn't tripped or somebody hadn't done this. It would, like, the big plays wouldn't have happened. Now, of course, it's always what shoulda, coulda, woulda, all of that jazz. And I get that. But the fact that they're so close on defense when we're seeing a DJ Jones falling down on a big run by Pittsburgh again, they came close to sacks on field probably 6 times, you guys. And I mean, like, within inches. And yes, that's the NFL, but within inches of sacking Justin Fields. And those would have happened. Boom. Amazing. They also did a great job, though, of essentially Riley Moss, if he hadn't tripped on that PI call, I mean, come on, like, what more can you ask for? Unfortunately, he trips, and it's a very clear trip where he's like running and you could just tell that he loses his footing. That ends up leading into a Pittsburgh field goal. So they're this close. I can just feel it in my bones that this defense can be really, really good, which is so weird, right? Because it's the Vance Joseph defense. And so it's like, well, Vance Joseph was the head coach of this Denver Broncos team at one point. He's done a good job with this defense and the personnel they have. There's one person in particular that I'm like, where are you? We've only seen a few things, but you're not throwing up highlights for this Denver Broncos team at all. So we'll dive into that. But I feel like this defense is really, really close. And I'm excited to see how they come up against Tampa Bay this week and Baker Mayfield, because I feel like it's right there. And hopefully they're able to put it all together and have a nice one roll up as well. Also, my number 2 one, you guys are probably going to get so sick of me when I talk about this guy, and you probably already know who I'm going to talk about, but I just feel like every single time I walk away and I'm like, yep, he was great. Yep, he was there for almost every play. Yep, he was fantastic on the defense. And that guy is my guy, the dog, DAWG, Jonathan Cooper. Okay, let me just tell you, his ability to switch off of his tackle is absolutely amazing. How quickly he can do it and transition himself to go after the runner or whoever it is it's seriously insane how fast he can do it. So I applaud him right there. He's been so much fun. He was also close to so many sacks. There were 3 sacks that he was like right there for. And if he would have just wrapped around for literally like a split second, it would have been a sack. And I love the pressure that he's putting on quarterbacks. You can just see it time and time again. I also really appreciate the fact that I've noticed a lot of guys actually quit once the ball's past them a little bit, but not Jonathan Cooper. He is still fighting after every single play, essentially, until the guy's taken down, until the whistle's blown. He's essentially still fighting. And I really appreciate that out of him. I think it's fun to watch him run across the field and make sure that he is able to help bring these guys down too. So I like that out of Jonathan Cooper. I feel like I'm going to highlight him every single week. Here's to him hopefully staying healthy. But it's been really fun to see that all shine. Oh, see, okay. Comment. Jonathan Cooper deserves a contract with the Broncos. Give him a contract extension. He's been an absolute stud. Him and DJ Jones have been so fun to watch. Hopefully DJ can stay healthy. But those are my 2 guys I feel like on the side of the defensive side of things that I'm like, yep, he's been great. Like, absolutely love watching them. So much. I see a lot of Bo comments. I promise I've got some Bo stuff we'll get into, so I'll put those comments up at the end. But sticking on the defensive side of things, I would say, see, Cooper is earning a nice contract. It's Denver who gives it to him. I agree. I don't think if you are George Payton that you can let him go. He's been just such a stud, and he has been so much fun to watch. And seriously, you guys, the more and more in depth that I pay attention to his game, I'm like blown away for how big he is, for how strong he is, how quickly he can also move. It's super, super impressive. My number 3 observation from the week against Pittsburgh Steelers is communication. This is something that this Broncos defense in particular has really good communication. You're seeing them line up. Week 1, I was like, you know what? They're communicating, which is great, but it was like we're not getting the offense, whoever they're playing against, was snapping the ball. So Seattle in this example was snapping the ball, and it seemed like they were all like a little frazzled of like, wait, not this week. They seem locked and loaded and ready to go, but also their movements and everything. I'm trying to remember who it was. It was Alex Singleton, but somebody on the opposite side of him. I don't remember who was in for the play. It's blanking on me right now. Literally, they were so in motion that their steps were quite literally in sync. If I could show highlights on this show, I would totally do it because it was really impressive. But you're watching the secondary, you're watching the linebackers of the D-line. They're all communicating really, really well. And it seems like everybody seems to be meshing on that front, which is why I think we're seeing such good results from the defense. Like, yeah, Justin Fields isn't a great offense, and I get that, but they still only held them for 13 points when they were on the field for a long time. And we will get to that in just a second, but I feel like we got to give them credit. Everyone's bashing on the offense, and I get it. It's been terrible to watch. It has not been fun to watch. But this defense has actually done a really good job of limiting the possessions and limiting the time that you're seeing this offense on. So, yeah, I got to give them definitely a little bit of credit to that, too. I'm reading some of these comments. Browning cannot stay healthy. I know that one is truthfully really, really hard, too. Also, I just saw somebody say that Zach Allen has been the best defensive player for the Broncos in the 2 NFL games. Zach Allen's a freak of nature, you guys. He's crazy. Andrew Mason actually had a wonderful article at denversports.com. You should definitely check. I always highlight Jonathan Cooper because truthfully, like, I'm just impressed with him every single time. I feel like our expectations for Zach Allen, he's meeting them, and he has been great. But I feel like for Jonathan Cooper coming into the season, they weren't as high. And so I'm always impressed with him for sure. Zach Allen has been great. His effectiveness of putting pressure on the quarterback is just absolutely insane. Like I mentioned, though, really good article, denversports.com. I didn't want to highlight the same thing as Mace, so definitely check out that article. But Zach Allen's been so much fun to watch. But yes, Browning cannot stay healthy, and I do think that Baron Browning, this is a make or break season for him, unfortunately. I mean, it's contract year. He's got to be able to figure it out. But right now, Jonathan Cooper is essentially taking that job from him. And right, we all thought that it was going to be Baron Browning last year in the season before he got injured. It was like, oh, Baron Browning's that guy. He is that guy 100%. But if you can't stay healthy, unfortunately, it doesn't matter what you do. So a little bit of bummer for sure for Baron Browning, and we'll see what ends up happening with him. Okay, let's see. Number 4 coming into the mix. B. Jones. Where the heck is Brandon Jones? And I say that even though he's got 7 tackles, he got 4 solo, 3 assists. I'm like, where is he at? I feel like we haven't really seen him too much, right? There have been no highlight plays, and everybody was talking about how there's going to be some highlight plays from Brandon Jones. I'm just wondering the entire game. I was like, where is Brandon Jones? I feel like I've never seen him. So the fact that he's had 4 solo tackles, granted, that's not a lot. That's only 2 per game. I'm like, where are you, my friend? Feels like it's been a little empty. So I'd like to see more out of Brandon Jones for sure. And this week we'll see what it ends up looking like. But I'm like, hey, BJ, Brandon Jones, where are you, dude? I'd like to see some more out of you, right? You had big shoes to cover with Justin Simmons living. So we need you to kind of step up and be that guy. So we'll see what ends up happening with Brandon Jones. Number 5. Exhaustion. So I mentioned that we were going to talk about the fact that this Denver Broncos team are getting tired defensively, and I don't quite blame them. We honestly got to be pretty impressed. The only touchdown of the game, the Steelers were on the field for 7 minutes and 34 seconds. That's a lot of time, you guys, to be out there and have to defensively hold on to them. And yes, it results in a touchdown. Yes, that sucks and it hurts, but you also got to understand that the Broncos were then on for the next drive for 2 minutes. So you got 2 minutes of break, and then you have to go back out there, and they actually stopped the Steelers from a 6-minute drive, almost 7-minute drive. Again, it was 6 minutes and 54 seconds, and they end up punting the ball. So it was impressive, but the exhaustion, you can definitely tell. I feel like they just get more and more tired, and I felt like I just watched that throughout the entire game, right? Like, yeah, and it makes sense. So when I say these type of things, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, Rachel, of course that's the case. They played an hour of football, like, well, longer than that, but 60 minutes of football. Like, of course they're going to be tired, but you could just really tell in the progression of the game that you're like, oh yeah, you can see them getting more and more tired. You can see them taking longer to get up and all of these things. So I think that does affect them at the end of the day, and hopefully they're going to start getting in better shape and they're going to be ready to go. But it doesn't help that the offense isn't giving them a lot of breaks to be able to bounce back in between those series. Again, you look at the Broncos drives, it's 1:54, it's 2:01. Like, there's not a lot of time there. In real time, it's probably like 10 minutes. But when you're out there for 25 minutes, which is like the 7 minutes, I mean, that's brutal to be able to watch. So their offense just has to figure it out. And I know that sounds so like easy, and of course, but truthfully, when I'm watching, I'm like, I can just see the guys getting more and more exhausted every single time, especially after those long drives. So your offense has to be able to score points. Your defense can't keep you in the thing the entire time. They can definitely help you, but you have to be able to put up more than 2 field goals. So that's kind of what comes down to it. How long is Baron Browning out for? Yeah, we do not know yet. They're still having to figure out all of that kind of stuff. Hopefully today we'll find out that question. The Broncos back at practice. They were off on Tuesday, so they'll have locker room media availability today. So hopefully we'll have that answer for you guys sooner rather than later. Let's see. That's usually a bad sign if it's a delayed announcement. Yes and no. I think just because we haven't heard from anybody since Monday, they probably ran tests on Monday afternoon. So hopefully it's not too bad. Still just reading some of these comments. They're coming in. Oh, we'll switch over to the offense though, because I feel like that's where a lot of people are chiming in and want to talk about it. Eyeing them down. This is something that really Bo Nix struggled with in week 1, was eyeing down his receivers, and he's still definitely doing that. It was a little bit better this week, but it's definitely something where you can tell exactly where he's going to throw the ball. One of my big keys was that the wide receivers were going to have to work towards Bo. They were going to have to go back towards Bo, really play towards him. And I felt like a lot of them actually did it. And I see some people in the comments talking about Courtland Sutton and how he's essentially been MIA. And Courtland Sutton's wide receiver number 1. So you have to realize, too, that the defenses really are going to focus a lot on Courtland Sutton and Josh Reynolds, too, right? Number 1 and number 2. But that's why we're seeing a lot of the younger guys. And it hurt the Broncos offense tremendously that Devon Vele was not able and not active on Sunday, because he's had the strongest connection. We saw a little bit of Marvin Mims. We saw a little Jordan Humphreys. And I think we saw Brandon Johnson catch in there as well. So those other young guys are getting a little bit, Marvin's not crazy young, but some of those other guys are getting the attention now from Bo Nix, but he still just like locks on a little bit too early. So it's like, all right, we need you just a smidge look around more, which is crazy because we saw it in the preseason. We saw him look all the way around. And I don't know if it's because he didn't have any of the pressure, because defenses aren't really going to do anything in the preseason, but just a drastic comparison between preseason and where we are now. Hopefully it's going to get better. We've already seen an improvement from week 1 to week 2, but it's still just like, Bo, what are we doing, man? Are we just stressed? Are we nervous? Are we stressed? Do we not know the game plan? What is it? Also, another one of the observations that I had, but Andrew Mason wrote an article on, I believe on Monday, maybe Tuesday, I can't remember, is that the time that they're spending in the huddle is just absolutely insanity. So Sean Payton is not signing them up for like really anything good because he can't get up there. He can't check the defenses. Like there's no changes being made. It's a really good article. Definitely recommend you checking it out. Denversports.com. Mace did that, but that was also something I noticed, but I wasn't going to steal anything from Mace because he had already put it out there. So I wanted to have some different observations from the game, but you should definitely read that because it is very true. Mace gives an exact time too of like, if they check out before this out of the huddle, the success rate just goes up. So hopefully we're seeing some different play calls that are a little more easier to roll off the tongue for Bo Nix. Just another one there. Sean's play sheet looks like our menu at work. Wait, that's actually so funny. I love that so much. I mean, you just watch Bo Nix when they show him in the huddle. He's talking for probably 15 to 20 seconds, which is absolutely insane. He is like rattling stuff off. I think it's just too much. We gotta like dumb it down. Like, let's just get like a blue orange 73 and like go with it. Omaha for all like goodness, just Omaha, you know? So yeah. I see people that are, people are not happy with Bo. Are you not happy with Bo or are you not happy with Sean? Let me know in the comments. I'm curious. We will move on though to our number, what are we on? Seventh observation. Help on the O-line. This is something I actually noticed before we had gone and rewatched everything, or before I'd gone and rewatched the All 22. This is something I noticed in the game is they added Matt Pert. He's the tackle. They added him into the mix a few times, right? They have to essentially say that he's eligible. So they would say like 79 eligible. But they were adding him onto the right side, which means that they were trying to help out Miners and McGlinchey, which I thought was rather fascinating. Now, granted, I don't know if that's where, I mean, obviously you got TJ Watt on that side of the ball too, who is a stud, and he was definitely applying the pressure, but they were adding a lot of extra help. I noticed more so than not. We saw Matt Pert come in. Now, what's going to happen with Mike McGlinchey out now? I don't really know. And I'm not sure, is it Frank Crum who's going to be coming in? Or some people are saying like Alex Pavlovic or whatever. I can't pronounce his last name. I can't say his last name. But I'm not sure entirely who is going to now fill in for Mike McGlinchey now that he's out for about a month. So that one's going to be interesting too to see out at practice today of like, okay, who is that guy? It was the main thing with Quinn Bailey is he could go on so many different spots on the offensive line. So it really sucked when he went down during training camp and would not be back this year. So that's a huge bummer. But yeah, otherwise I noticed that they were definitely adding some extra help. And I don't know if that was specifically for TJ Watt or because they don't have trust in their offensive line entirely. We're going to find out this week if you were game planning to stop TJ or if you are trying to just help him out. I would not be surprised if we see Matt Pert, again, number 79 for the Broncos a little bit this week, especially with Mike McGlinchey now out. So that would not surprise me. I did say that there was going to be one observation I had on here that was Steelers related, and it's this one. So their center, I found this to be shocking. More often than not, the left tackle or the left guard, would end up hitting the center. Like, literally smacking him after he got done talking to the quarterback. And I just found that to be fascinating. And I was like, do we have a hearing problem? Like, well, I'm surprised that we're having these sort of communication. Like, this is the way we're communicating. It was overall just like crazy to me to watch it. And it wasn't like once or twice. It was like very, very frequent. If you go back and watch that game, you will see it. It was really, really crazy to me. I've never noticed any other offensive line dealing with that. So I was just really interested. Like, I would love to pay attention, or like, does that happen in like little leagues or college ball? Obviously I was never able to play any of those. And so I was just really curious. It was one of those things I was like, fascinating for how often it happened. Again, I can see it happening like once, twice, 3 times a game, whatever, 4 times a game. But it literally felt like every single play I was watching that happen. And I was like, holy smokes, did not expect that at all. Number 9, Ben Powers. Ben Powers. We don't talk about Ben Powers all that often, but to be completely honest with you, kind of here for Ben Powers. I feel like he's done a good job, and especially just too of he notices coverage, which is really good. And I know that's his job, but the way that he is able to move and the way he is able to transition definitely helped out Bo Nix quite a few times on Sunday. So I just feel like we need to give Ben Powers a little bit of roses. Again, not a name that everybody talks about, but he feel like he did a really good job. Now, Sean Payton talked about the inconsistencies with the offensive line and in pass protection and the run blocking. And that's something that they're going to look to clean up. But I just feel like Ben Powers, he had a pretty decent game. He was able to switch it up on coverages and stuff like that. So I just felt like he deserved a little bit of roses for this day. Now, my favorite one, and I went in and I dove into some little extra research for, and that comes in at number 10, is the step back. And this is on Bo Nix. So essentially, and I feel like him and Caleb Williams both do this. I haven't had a chance to watch anything besides highlight for Jaden Daniels, so I don't know if he does this. But him and Caleb Williams, they fall back so far. And I was like, how many yards are they actually falling back? And where do people like Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen or Joe Burrow do it? Right? Because I've talked a lot about how I feel like Bo needs to step up into the pocket a little bit more. And so it was really fascinating. I went back and I watched a solid chunk of just Bo and how he like steps back. Essentially, he always is stepping back 8 to 10 yards, which one makes you have to throw the ball for more yardage. Plus, it gives the defense more time to try and give you a little bit of that pressure, which is not exactly good. Not that we need to get the ball out super fast like we've seen, which they have had success with, but it's also giving the defense more time to read a lot of different things. So the times that he did drop back just 5 yards, they actually had better success rates compared to as long as the tight end or the wide receiver or whoever it is was not dropping the ball, because we saw that plenty over the course of Sunday's game. But they actually had more success if he just dropped back 5 yards compared to that 8 to 10 yards. So we've seen him do a ton. Now I went and looked up Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes too. I'm like, how far do they actually drop back? Joe Burrow was anywhere between 5 and 7 yards, and I watched a good chunk of time. You did not see him really step back farther than that 5-6 yards. 7 was like, it was a stretch. And then Patrick Mahomes was 5 to 8 yards. So they were staying a little bit closer. But again, it's just time and it's yards. And I thought that was such a fascinating thing to see how Bo Nix compares to two of the great guys, in Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes in that same front. Because again, it is extra time that you're giving the defense to be able to see things. And it's also forcing you to have to throw more yardage, right? Your line of scrimmage then is all of a sudden 8 yards away. So when you throw it to the side, your guy still has to run 5 yards to get back to the line of scrimmage. So that was really fascinating for me just to pay attention to on that side of things. So yeah, I know. I thought it was really interesting, that whole shindig. So yeah, that is going to do it though for me. I want to read all of your guys' comments though. Yeah. And I know that the guard does tap the center. Trust me, I get that. But like for how often it was happening, and it really wasn't that loud at Empower Field, I was really surprised. So I'm very curious to see if that happens all the time for Pittsburgh, which is why I brought it up. I just thought it was fascinating at like how often we ended up seeing that. I want to see some more of these comments. Dun, 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 dun. Drops don't help Nix feel great when he does his job only to amount to nothing. Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate. That's like a true statement right there. That's my thing though, is he's dropping so far back that again, he's having to throw for 8 to 10 yards just to get back to the line of scrimmage. So I'll be curious to see how the pocket presence is. I would like for him to step up a little bit too, especially when the pocket is collapsing, just for that extra 1 or 2 seconds to see what you're able to do. A lot of people are saying, though, that it's on Sean Payton right now. They're not putting a lot of blame on Bo Nix. I've seen a ton of comments that have come through on it. People are frustrated with Sean Payton, so it's interesting to see that. O-line play has been below par, especially highest paid too. Mad respect on your view, my friend Rachel, on this. Different views are always good. Well, yeah, I appreciate that so much. That was one thing, and it took me a really long time to be in this industry to see, like, I see the game so differently than other people see the game too. Not just because I'm a female, but I feel like we all kind of absorb the game so differently, especially when you go back and you're able to watch the all 22 or anything like that. It's really fascinating to see what I pick up and what other people pick up. I've had fun. Not this week, but the week prior, my dad was actually over, and the way we saw, just different things with different coverages was really fascinating. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for tuning in on these different 10 observations. I appreciate it. Just, it's fun to be able to sit here and talk different things about football. We can sit and talk about how Sean Payton's letting the team down, or we can talk about how Bo Nix is continuing to struggle. But it's like, why is Bo Nix continuing to struggle? The run game, I'm not going to lie to you guys, I still don't know what it is about the run game, why they can't seem to figure it out 100%, because it is a struggle. I mean, obviously the offensive line definitely chimes in on that a little bit. But like, why else? Why can't they get the run going at all? I feel like that's the one where if I could just sit down with Sean Payton, I'd be like, Sean, what do you see? Where are you identifying the fact that they cannot figure out the run game at all, and your quarterback's your leading rusher? So I would love to do that for sure. Let's see. I want to get to a few other comments just because we've got some time. Those interceptions are so bad. Momentum killers. Yes, and the ones at the end of the game, I mean, really, that's why I think he actually might break Peyton Manning's interception record, because if they are behind in every single game, which hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully they are able to put together a winning team. Like, I'm not trying to dog on him, but if he's having to throw Hail Mary like plays towards the end of every single game, then he quite literally might break the interception record for Peyton Manning, right? Like, that's 17 just at the end of each game if you throw one, and then to expect him to throw at least one other one throughout the entire course of the game, like that, you're easily breaking Peyton's record. So I hope that's not the case. I really do. I really, really do. But I could totally see it happening as well. I still believe in Bo. He needs help around him. Yeah, I saw a lot of people talking about Cortland Sutton, so I trust me. I get that. There's no explosive running backs. That's the thing, though. I think that they can. I really truthfully believe that they can be explosive running backs. And I really want to see that. I feel like Javonte Williams, he can get back to there. Jaleel McLaughlin, I think he can. I'm bummed about Audric Estime. I hope that he does return earlier off of IR because I'm excited about him. But like Tyler Beatty, I think that he can be explosive. So I think that it's there. I just don't know why we can't see that yet. Yeah, everybody wants to see more Batty. I'm totally with you. Williams is not the player he was 3 years ago. He never will be. Time to move on. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, first of all, that just kills me a little bit. Because Javonte is just like such a great dude in general. And I know he's not the same player, but he really looked like it in training camp. Maybe not for the fact that he's going to carry guys on his back 4 extra yards, but he really did look like how he did 3 years ago, where he was just an absolute baller, and he was the like pride and joy of what was Good Morning Football, Angry Runs. Like, everybody was talking about him. I feel like he was on Angry Runs like every other week, it felt like. I don't know. The Broncos need a Josh Jacobs type running back. I mean, Josh Jacobs is obviously incredible, but I just feel like it's there. I just feel like it really is. Jay Will is the type of back that needs 20 plus touches. Maybe he just does need to get into a rhythm. Maybe they need to stop the rotation, right? Sean Payton talked a little bit about that, about who they were having in for certain things. Maybe we do need to see that out of this Denver Broncos squad, where it's like you're sticking with the same guys over and over and over again, and they're able to get back into it. So that would be huge. Let's see. Who is your favorite Bronco? Wait, great question. Are you talking of all time or current? Of all time, it's this guy right there, Champ Bailey. He's one of the reasons that I got into this industry, because I loved watching him. I always thought he was great. So he's a stud, obviously, one of the greatest Broncos of all time. So he's my favorite former player. My favorite current player, that's really hard. I don't like look at myself as a fan anymore. So it's not like I'm like, which guy's jersey would I buy? I've got lots of different just like relationships with different guys. So Javonte's been one who I've known for the past 3 years. So I've obviously gotten to know him through talks, and I do really like Javonte, and I appreciate him so much for his honesty. Jonathan Cooper, probably, right? I highlight him all the time. He's been fantastic. I just think the way he sees the game and his aggression towards the game is really appreciated by Broncos country. Cortland Sutton is good. I'm trying to think of who else. Quinn Miners, I appreciate because he always gives honest answers. A lot of times we see, the plain media crap that they give us, but I feel like Quinn he doesn't hold back, and he actually gives you honest answers, and I really do appreciate that. Let's see. Who else? Yeah, it's like really tough. I feel like those guys, the late great wide receiver Demaryius Thomas, of course, loved DT. Miss him dearly. Obviously, I wasn't in the industry when he was a part of the team, but as a fan, like a Denver Broncos fan, my heart goes out to DT and them, and I love how they're continuing to, Emmanuel Sanders wearing the "Long Live DT" jersey, like just brings me so much joy to see that continue to live on. So yeah, I see all of those comments about DT. I hope he makes it into the Hall of Fame. That would be absolutely incredible. There are a lot of good dudes on this Denver Broncos team, but those are probably like some of my top guys that I really do appreciate. Also, this probably isn't a fan favorite, but I think that his press conferences are absolutely hysterical. And that's Jared Stidham. Like, I'm sorry, people think he's cocky and he's rude. I think he's freaking hysterical. And I love the fact that he has fun with it. Like, he could get up there and just be totally like, yep, this is what it is, blah, 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 blah. But he like cracks jokes. He tells us the fun stories that we want to hear, right? He tells us about the training camps and the off seasons and making Bo carry all of the rookie gear. Like, I appreciate that stuff. I don't know about other people, but I know people just think he's cocky. But I actually do really like Jared Stidham. My favorite wide receiver. Dun, 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 dun. I guess Court, just because he's the leader, and I feel like we talk to him like most. I feel bad. He's never gotten like hot-headed or anything. So I would say on this current team would definitely probably have to be Court. Emmanuel Sanders is really cool as well. I see people talking about him. Just great dude overall. But yeah, I would say a lot of those guys are my favorite. Let me know who your guys' favorite former and present Broncos country is. I would love to hear down in the comments too. So please let me know. But otherwise, you guys, that is going to do it. Thank you guys so much for all of the love on these episodes. And let me know if you want me to continue doing them. That definitely gives me just a different way to look at everything that's happening with the Broncos. And I know more often than not on sports radio, we really dive into like the storylines and the big ones, but I feel like diving into the actual game is fun too. So let me know if you guys like these type of episodes. Tomorrow I will be back with my 3 keys to beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So buckle up. I feel like my keys have been spot on each week, you guys. So I feel like I'm nailing those. If only I could place some like coffee bets on those type of things. So yeah, I definitely appreciate it. But I will see you guys tomorrow, 10 a.m. for Denver Sports Daily, and then 12 p.m. for another episode of Coffee Break with those 3 keys. We'll see you guys later. Bye.